Hello and welcome to NBL Overtime. The regular season's done. Now the play-in games are done. It is the official finals. A little fever break before then, but the official finals taken off. Damon Lowry, Peter Hawley. And I'm going to start this one off with a question for you, Pete. Are these the four teams that you would say the best, most deserved throughout the year that have made the Final Four?
Yeah, I think it would be. I mean, when we look at it all, I mean, Adelaide, we'll talk about it. Sydney, they had their ups and downs, all of that. So when you actually iron it out, which is interesting to say that one of these teams started 0-5 as well. Yeah. So it is fascinating to think, but I'm looking forward to the finals.
Rhetorical question? No. Top four? 1-4? Yes. Yeah. The 2, 5, and 6 out. That's how it goes. It wasn't good enough, and they're gone.
And that's what people have said about the play-in games. Now, I love the play-in. Just because it happens to have worked with the top four teams making it to the Final Four, I don't think that's a reason to say, let's not do the play-in again, or let's get rid of it.
The play-in is great. I think it's absolutely phenomenal. It makes every game in the regular season that much more important, every quarter that important, because you saw you had to fight for your life in that first game, Adelaide versus Sydney, and then Adelaide, they looked like they were going to potentially be able to get in to a semi-final series and then maybe even get to a championship series. We don't have to worry about that now, but it's always good to have the best four teams in it at the end.
We don't have to worry about that now. But at halftime, we were almost guaranteed that the Adelaide 36ers were going to advance until the complete capitulation of the Adelaide 36ers against the South East Melbourne Phoenix, who advanced. And we'll touch on them a little bit later. But I'll tell you what, it reminded me of a Charles Dickens quote this entire season from the Adelaide 36ers. It was the best of times. It was the worst of times. It was the age of wisdom. It was the age of foolishness. It was the epoch of belief. It was the epoch of incredulity. It was the season of light. It was the season of darkness. And it was the spring of hope. It was the winter of despair. Oh, you are not going to do me dirty on that quote.
I mean, you get to summary.
The winner of what? The epoch of who?
Winter. God damn, can we get higher IQ panelists?
You could just sit here and say it was crap. That's what it was. When it comes down to it, they had every single right to be going at halftime so close to a semi-final series berth. And the only thing that was going to stop them from getting there,
Charles Dickens.
Themselves. And that's been the story of the whole thing. I think the words that Mike Wells used in the press conference summed it up in terms of a soup that you don't want to eat. That's basically how it was. And it was a really, really disappointing end, but you can't be too angry if you are there sitting there as an Adelaide fan, because this is what was dished up all season long. At their very best, they were a 20-point lead capable team on anyone. At their very worst, that was what the second half was.
This is why I was never surprised. When everybody was talking about, well, not everybody, because I wasn't, the majority was saying you don't want to play against this team because, you know, they're dangerous. I'm like, you know what? They finished 3 games below 500. To call them dysfunctional would probably be kind, but we've seen the cracks forming throughout the whole season. I'm talking about going back to when Mike Wells first took over. We saw some cracks. So it's just only a matter of time. As soon as the right amount of pressure was applied, they folded. That's what happened.
Pete, the first half, of course, we could go through that, and it was one of their best first halves of the season. But their second half, it wasn't just missed shots and bad passes. For the most part, it was a lack of effort as well.
And a lot of that, so I looked at some of the clips as to why they gave up such a big lead. And we see this throughout the entire season, though, when you break it down. So compounding errors, when you have a look at the score right now, everyone's standing still. You're just letting Jarrell Martin go one-on-one. Look at Ben Ayres doing the right job, digging, gets an offensive hooking foul, because everyone's just standing ball watching right here. This one right here, okay, they're going to try and get it into Montrezl Harrell. You run the shooter off. So DJ Vasiljevic got glove. Everyone's standing still. That pass is not there. That pass has never been there. Then you get an unsportsmanlike foul, compounding errors here. Another one right here. Look at Kendrick Davis, face guarding Owen Foxwell like he's Steph Curry. Where are you on help side? And this just started the run. You have a look at the score and it's flipped from three-quarter time just like that. The points for it was just an unbelievable second half meltdown, but compounding errors. When you go in at halftime, there's this little seed in your head thinking, hey, we've got a foot and a half in the semi-final series here. And when things start to go wrong, you knew that South East Melbourne were going to have to come out and throw a punch. They weren't going to lay down on their home floor with how well they've been in the second half of the season. And when South East Melbourne started to get some momentum, the Adelaide 36ers went back to what we saw all season long. They went a bit more individual, not just offensively, but defensively we saw there. As long as my guy doesn't score, I don't care about that. And then South East Melbourne just punished them. They compounded that with turnovers and missed shots. And in the end, they had a chance. They were up 6 in the fourth quarter, but I think everybody was watching the game thinking they're not going to win this game.
You could have picked another 10 clips to show the lack of effort and the lack of intensity. But with a 19-point lead at the half, the word that comes to mind is front runner. We all know what front runner means. When everything is going good, Adelaide's world beaters. But as soon as things get tight, this is when you find out about teams. Teams have to have a certain kind of character, a team character. You have to be built on something. We talk about the South East Melbourne Phoenix. They're kind of built on defense. They wasn't at the start of the season, but since Josh has been there, he has been preaching that. So you can see, you know what? They're going to, at some point, you're going to get a real good dose of defense from them. What are the Adelaide 36ers built on? What do they stand on? Nobody knows. They stand on individual brilliance, and that only gets you so far.
Well, it only gets you as far as Kendrick Davis takes you, and I think that's what we saw in that second half, because for a lot of this season, it has been, look, Montrez has played great at times, Humphries, DJ's playing well, but if Davis isn't on, then you're cooked as a team. Because really in this league, in this day and age, with how talented a lot of these teams are going 3 imports deep, you can't have only one guy firing.
I mean, you have a look at Vasiljevic with 3 points, one of his poorer games. He was sick from all reports, so you can understand you can kind of give him...
Yeah.
But Isaac Humphries, 4 points as well. Montrez battled hard, but you're right, I kind of looked at it all, and you talk about what is their identity? Their identity and what we saw, and I think we talked to Mike Wells before a game. They went on a 2-game winning streak after the crisis meeting and said, how do you bottle this now? Because their backs were against the wall, their season looked like it was done, and they came out fighting, and they had this mental edge over whoever they played. But we asked him, how do you bottle this for every game now when it looks like you're already going to be in the play-in tournament? And he said, we're trying to figure that out. And they didn't do that. At halftime, where's that same energy like, okay, it's 0-0, we're fighting for our life here, we're trying to get on. They would have had just slipped back into a mentality of, oh, we're going to win this game, and we got enough talent to do it. And in the end, the better team won in the second half.
You can't bottle what's not in you. You can only maybe grab a glimpse of it from time to time. And whenever they showed that glimpse, it was beautiful. But over a sustained period of time, it ain't gonna be there. Why do we just trust the talent instead of putting all the trust in the character? It's gonna show up it's only a matter of time. As soon as the playoffs start, as soon as it gets really hot, you will find out. And all they did was go back to who they were. So I was not surprised at all. I was surprised they had a lead that big to begin with. But once that slide started, I said, there they are. There they are right there. That's who they've always been. Now, talking about Kendrick Davis, electric. Unbelievable. Here's Kendrick's his next level of growth. Yes, he can get his 25, no problem, at all. But do you realize that your buddy DJ Vasiljevic hasn't taken a shot in the whole half of basketball? Kendrick, are you aware of this? Kendrick, do you understand that Montrezl Harrell does not have anybody that can guard him? How come the ball ain't going to him? Kendrick, do you understand that Angus Glover is guarding Jarrell Martin? These are the intricacies of point guard play that Kendrick does not have just yet. He's got the one-on-one skill down pat. If he can incorporate that part, we're talking about a different player.
Just trying to find where in my list of Charles Dickens quotes, you cannot bottle what is not in you. I think it's
Lowry quote.
It's somewhere in here, I know that. But the infighting of the Adelaide 36ers, it's been entertaining. For me, you guys look at the X's and O's very, very deeply. Sometimes I look at basketball top line. The infighting at times has been hilarious and entertaining for anyone who wasn't involved or supporting the Adelaide 36ers. But it reared its ugly head in this one multiple times, especially in the second half.
It wasn't fun to watch, especially from Adelaide fans as well. Even right here, so Sunday Debt, shot clock was winding down, and then Kendrick Davis, just have a look. He's just looking over to him thinking, that ball's got to come to me. This one was highlighted on social media as well from Montrez going at DJ. But this is, you talk about the character of a team. Damon, this is what happens. And there was a timeout in particular as well where everyone was trying to just lock back in. Jason Cadee was doing an exceptional job. He was doing really good at just saying, hey, we need to lock in here. We're still leading in an elimination game on the road. I know this has fallen apart, but we're still in a position to win. It didn't eventuate because they all kind of went their separate ways. And it's tough to watch. And you talked about not understanding how they put that lead on. I'm not surprised they got out by 20 because I do believe that at their very best, that little glimpse we saw is one of the best in the competition. They just could not sustain that enough for a game for anyone to really have that faith they could go a long way. And I think it frustrates the fans. And I also think it frustrates the coaches and the players as well because they're all sitting there and it's a lot easier to point fingers as a player, as a coach. It's just a lot easier to sit there and say, well, he didn't do his job. I might have not done mine, but I'm not alone in that.
That crisis meeting they had, then they all came out of that crisis meeting and says, we're going to hold everybody accountable. Words. Words don't mean anything. Anybody can say that because as soon as it gets hot, Nobody wanted any accountability. As soon as Jarrell Martin went to Kendrick and said, hey, man, I was open, Kendrick fires up. As soon as Trez goes to DJ, DJ walks off. There's no accountability. That's just wordplay. Stop getting sucked in, not you, Pete, but we got to stop as a society. Stop getting sucked into people going like this and just watch their actions.
But continue to watch us talk on NBL Overtime because we need you viewers at home. But Mike Wells, we've done with the playing group now. Now it's on to the coaching stuff. Mike Wells made some comments post-game that are worthy of us delving into.
I think that probably, unfortunately, a mini version of our whole year, to be honest with you. Well, that's all. I've never had to bring it all together at the end of the year, to be honest with you. As an assistant, you go around and you shake everybody's hands and you do all this stuff. And then, as a head coach, it's a whole bunch of different emotions with each individual guy that you've built all these relationships with, and, the journey and how you're trying to, you gotta be able to build individual personal relationships to be able to coach guys and to be able to coach them hard and give them the hard truth at times.
Now, first off, my man has aged 20 years in the space of 6 months with what he's had to deal with there, and he's done it very gracefully as well. But Mike Wells, it's that talk there where he said he's been an assistant his whole career, 20-year career, fantastic assistant at that, some real high-level teams. There is a process which comes with being a head coach. Has that sort of hurt them a little bit this year that maybe with someone else, and I'm not saying Mike Wells needs to go. I hope Mike Wells stays, and I believe he will. But would a head coach with more head coaching experience just be able to manage the personnel a little bit better through this environment? How much is it all on Montrez, Kendrick and this infighting? And how much of it actually goes on the coaching staff who don't have a huge amount of experience, as Mike Wells just said, in handling that environment?
Mike Wells wasn't the head coach to start the season. He wasn't the head coach in the preseason. By the time he got promoted, he already inherited this group without Montrezl Harrell, without Jarrell Martin, both obviously not playing, right? He comes in and he's reading the room. He can see there's some personalities, some strong personalities in this group. He's got to try to find out now and hit the ground running. Guess what? You got to have a leader, but you got to have some followers. You can be a great leader, but if ain't nobody following you, what's the point? So right now, they don't have the followers. Now, Jason Cadee and Sunday Dech, I believe, are strong character guys, players. Like, I'm not talking about individually because I don't know him that well. But you see how we talk about Jason Cadee? Why? Because it's his character. How do we talk about Sunday Dech? Because of his character. Now, outside of them two, those guys there wasn't enough of that to influence all of that. So they was outnumbered.
Strong task for Mike Wells. Any assistant coach you look in the history of really any sport, but especially NBL, in recent history we've seen, we've all been a part of teams where you get assigned, maybe it's the guards, maybe it's a certain group, you have your assistant coach you build a really close relationship with, you're watching film, you do individual workouts, and then the head coach controls the X's and O's, does all that in-game stuff, whereas even game scouts are done by assistant coaches. So Mike Wells going from that to then having to go to a head coach while still trying to have a handprint on that. They brought in a new coaching staff as well, trying to figure out how do I get this whole group playing together. There'd be no tougher job to make that leap than that Adelaide group that he did, because at times, as we said, we saw when it all came together what this team could achieve, but then so many times we saw the other side of it, and that Jekyll and Hyde is just not going to win a championship.
And I look forward to seeing Mike Wells build on that as well, because he's only going to get better the more head coaching experience comes on. But Jason Cadee, of course, announced his retirement. You spoke on leadership and character. That man personifies them better than probably any other we've seen recently and who we've gotten to know, Pete, across our journey throughout the NBL. You will not hear his career aside, his fantastic career aside, he is one of the one guys you would never hear a bad word about. Everybody loved Jason Cadee.
Unbelievable teammate, unbelievable leader, and again, his career, what he did, exceptional on the basketball court. And to go right back to how it nearly was all taken away from him from that car crash so long ago, just incredible. Hope he stays around. I know he's got some things off the court, but I really hope he stays involved in the game, because he could be a phenomenal coach one day, understands the game, but is just so well respected by his peers, which says so much for a guy who played over 400 games. And as you said, been on a whole lot of teams. And you can go back and ask any one of them, and no one will say a bad word about the bloke. Not many people can do that.
I played on one team, played 3 games.
And a lot of people can say
bad things about me.
Yeah.
This dude racked up 400 of them without a bad word.
Did you play 3 games?
Oh, I think I subbed in right at the end of
Yeah,
mine.
2.5.
Now, Jason, I introduced myself to him. Like, obviously, I know who he is. I played against his father's teams on the West Sydney Slammers, so I'm like a generation, probably and a half, removed or above like where Jason is. And I just had to say, man, I just like the way he go about it. Like, I don't know him from a bar of soap other than what I've seen and what I've heard. And like you just said, to a man, everybody got him way up here character-wise and hated for him to go out the way he did. He tried his butt off, but like I said, it was just him and any other team. That kind of leadership, he's like a Mitch Norton type, like a Damian Martin type. Those kind of guys feel like they can just galvanize a group, the right kind of group. And he's going to be sorely missed.
Well, that's the end of the Adelaide 36ers for NBL 25. On behalf of everyone who works in basketball media, thank you, Adelaide, for what you have provided this year. Storylines on storylines, entertainment, drama, and please, somehow, maybe it's another team's turn next year. Bring that same sort of energy into the season because it makes our jobs a whole lot more fun and entertaining. But that's the losing team's done. Let's jump over to the Phoenix because they had their worst first half in franchise history. 1 foot out the door of the semi-finals. They roll back in. Everybody picks up and they win what at one point was an unwinnable game, and it was guys like Ben Ayre that stepped up through this. It wasn't exactly superstar action. It was the X-factor guys that came in and did it for them.
Would have loved to be a fly on the wall at halftime. And I hear some reports about what was said. I think Sam McKinnon had a nice spray in there as well. But the way they came out, and again, the fact that they're playing Adelaide, make no mistake, if they were playing any other team at halftime, it might be harder to have that mental edge of thinking, oh, we're not completely out of it, down 20-odd on our home floor. But they were playing against a team that they knew that if they showed some signs, if they could just see some cracks from Adelaide, they might fall over. And they came out with a purpose. Ben Ayre was terrific. Josh King did a wonderful job. His energy on the sideline is infectious. And you sit here saying you're not surprised, but geez, they look really, really strong when they play like that second half.
They've shown the South East Melbourne Phoenix that they can get a lead, blow a lead. But you know at some point they're going to lock in on defense. And one thing that Josh King has is he has a defensive particular group. And I'm talking about Malik Lewis, Matt Kenyon, Foxwell, and Benny Ayre, as well as Vodanovich. Those five, you look at them and go, they're small. But you know what? They create havoc. On Foxwell and Ben Ayre is picking up the ball full court, wearing guards down. They generate transition offense, not necessarily go-to kind of buckets. When Matt Hurt is out there on the floor with them, that's obviously their go-to guy on the offensive end. But you know, on defense, things are going to get real hard. Didn't want to leave out Angus Glover because he's also a menace on defense. Josh King has enough defensive pieces that they are going to hold the fort until the offense picks up, and that's what it did.
You know what's crazy about Matt Hurt? Like, we've had these massive games all year, guys scoring 60, 50, that sort of stuff. Matt Hurt doesn't really come out there and just set the world on fire, but he's just consistent. Every single time you know what you're going to get.
Said it last week, said it a few weeks before, probably since the start of the season. This man is truly unguardable. He is real. He can score at a variety of what. Look at the way putting the ball on the floor. You're going to slide your feet. That's pretty good defense, Jarrell Martin. Well, a fadeaway, he can knock that down. He can shoot the three ball. It's a unique shooting style for sure. But seriously, there's only one knock on the man. That's the tan line. Because besides that, he is just really, really fluent in the game of basketball. Just scores when he wants to. Can finish above the rim. And that's. Hey, Moldovan says, spot on.
If I'm an agent, man, there's a lot of photos of Matt Hurt I'm going to approach when I'm talking about contract talks, but it ain't the shot form.
It goes in.
Shot form
It don't matter. It don't matter, man. It dude's a bucket.
To be fair, that shot form there, yours looks better, but if we look at the actual career stats in the NBL, not college.
Pete.
And the good thing that Matt Hurt does is he's patient on offense. Like, they actually got a system. I watched them get the ball from one side of the floor to the other, dribble handoff, pocket pass, Matt finishes. He's just not out there going one-on-one. That's not really his kind of game. They get it. He gets it off of the offense, which is great to see.
Sometimes, though, I wish they would just go down there and just roll the ball in for a one-on-one situation a little bit more, because he goes sometimes. Maybe that's why he's not scoring the 50s and stuff, because they do deny him a little bit.
Well, it'll be interesting to see their matchup again with the Hawks when they try and exploit that. But you talk about all the pieces working for Matt Hurt. Geordie Hunter being the best rolling big man in the league. That allows him a bit more space. He gets some unique matchups, and it doesn't matter who you put on him. On a big body, he'll just take you out to the three, put the ball on the floor. If you put a smaller guard in there, he'll just back you down. He is so unique, and he's truly unguardable.
Pete, your burner phone is getting a message about every 10 seconds. Anything on Foxwell? Because the injury at the time, got hit in the ribs, he went back, and he was laying down. He was in a whole lot of hurt behind the scenes at John Cain Arena. He came back out with the group. Have we got any update on where he's sitting out at the moment?
I haven't heard any more about it, but it did look like a bit of a worry, didn't it? I mean, he's been huge without Derek Walton Jr. and you were calling that game and said how much pain he was in. Hopefully that's nothing that keeps you. You know he's tough. You know he's going to do everything he can to play, but they're going to need him. They're going to need his tenacity.
Now, after the game, I happened to be backstage, mingling, and I was talking to a South East Melbourne Phoenix official, and I saw the puddle that was left behind from Owen Foxwell. He left a little bit of his contents on the floor back, in the back.
Bit of lunch.
Just a little bit. So he took a hard shot. It created some contusions, and he let it out.
In the jejunum.
He's fine.
The jejunum.
Owen Foxwell is fine. Proud member of the Little Big Man Society. He's good to go. Don't worry
He's
about it.
taller than you.
Yeah, I told him if he grows 1 more inch,
Well,
he's out.
Well, I will say that you started to go the high top fade a little bit here. Just getting a bit of extra length, my man, but we're going overtime. It is time to go to the Ain't No Cupcake League, and you speak about the Little Big Man Society. Damon, I am proud to say that you are probably one of the toughest guys that I know with what you put your body through.
Oh, it's my turn.
You are running. Yeah, Derek Rucker's not here today, so I'm going straight at you.
All right.
You go for these crazy marathon runs with a rucksack full of goddamn lead on your back. You do all these challenges and that sort of stuff. I didn't expect this next to me when we were at the game. You're eating that little lollipop like a 4-year-old child, my man. What is going on there?
Are you on air?
We're on air there.
I was so happy to see that lollipop.
Where's that from? Who gave you that?
He stole it from a
Canteen.
4-year-old.
I'm Lollipop Lowry.
Oh,
Okay. The two worst things that have happened in overtime history, there's me attempting a Charles Dickens quote, and there's you trying to name yourself Lollipop.
that's not going to stick. We're on air there. I don't even know how to segue this, so I'll just go to it. We've all seen some great banner raising, jersey retirements, but this happened overseas in college in Illinois. Now, there's one thing you got to get right. I don't know if you saw this, but you've just got to get one part of it right. And they just put it upside down. He was laughing. He saw the funny part about it, to Terrence Shannon Jr. But what are you thinking when you're right there? But when that's going up?
Playing for the University of Illy.
Do you know the worst bit about that was they didn't have time to change it. So they had to actually raise the banner the whole way up, and it sat upside down
Until they had time
for the
to
entire
change.
game till after the game. They had to
You
change
have one
it
job.
and flip it around.
One job.
Tough one. Anyway, so Sunday Detch, let me just say right now, I'm in that line of people that admire your work. There's bounce passes, chest passes, pocket passes.
I know this one.
I don't know what this particular pass is, but let's hope that you never throw another one. Ping, right into the back of the shin,
That changed momentum.
straight to Matt Hurt. Yeah.
Oh, that's bad.
Also, he's got one of the most viral clips in the NBL of an NFL pass. He should have just NFL launched that down the rim.
Yeah, that was a
Life
tough
is all
one.
about duality. You want the best and the worst. It reminds me of a Charles Dickens quote. No, I won't go there. We're off to a break. Plenty more coming up next. Well, the Sydney Kings, touted as pre-season champions, never managed to get their season rolling, and they fall out in the play-in. Peter Hooley, Damon Lowry, you, I believe, since the start of the season, were not as high as others were on the Kings.
There was no touting from me. I was toutless when it came to the Kings.
Lack of tout.
Because I knew they had too many guys in similar positions. This was before Jalen Galloway unfortunately got hurt. I would have loved to have seen him play. Yep. But I just thought they're too small. I said, Cam Oliver is your 5-man. I said, I see what's going to happen. Xavier Cook's going to play a lot of 5. It's going to kind of, hurt his game. I didn't factor in that Kelly LePepe would have the season that he was having, which is full credit to him. But even with Kelly out there, too small. So I figured it was only a matter of time before the game slows down, you get crushed on the glass. But to the Kings' credit, they actually won the rebounding count in their last game on just sheer heart and desire. But, yeah, I never thought they were built to win a championship.
Well, Jalen Adams did everything he could with the triple-double. Actually, turnovers, unfortunately, with his second one there. So not the best. Did everything on the scoring front.
He was going to have to do a whole lot more, obviously, with no Cooks in this game and how well he played and how much they've relied on him. But looking at some clips in this whole game, really, of what separated them. He had the 30 points, and you talk about 10 assists, 10 turnovers. I don't mind some of those turnovers because you expect, as I said, he's going to have to do a whole lot, that he's going to have the ball in his hands, as long as they're aggressive ones. He made a few lazy ones at times and just kind of not locked in. But a lot of their offense really looked like, well, Goorjian's has been preaching how they need a true point guard to let him play shooting guard, because at times it was stagnant. No one really knew what was set up. And am I surprised that they fell apart? Absolutely not. We saw it throughout all season. But Jalen Adams, I would love to see him back in the league next year. I think he's a phenomenal talent. We saw him there. But Clearly, he needs some other pieces around him to make his job a little easier.
What about an offense? What about? I just feel like we all know his work. His pick and roll work is exquisite. That is the Sydney Kings offense. 95% of it is Jalen Adams with the ball, pick and roll. That's it. But if there was anything else, how does Cam Oliver get his shot? How does everybody else become involved? We never really found out, because that's what they do. They spread the floor, and it's just too terminal. And if Jalen is not scoring, which he tends to do, but if he's not, I don't see how they win.
Well, it's funny you bring that up. So I found some clips. You talk about trying to set up the offense and make anything look like offense. So here's a possession here, right? You're trying to get through the offense. It looks like they're trying to run something, but there's some miscommunication, some screens out of the wrong path, and then the ball movement. Everybody's just kind of moving together. But this is an Adelaide team that normally can't play defense. Shot clock's winding down. This is wide open. That ball's got to go there. That ball just has to go there. I know the shot clock was winding down, so that's a poor decision here. You talk about Jalen Adams just being a little smarter. I don't care how many shots you've missed, Jalen Adams. You have to shoot that ball. You have to shoot that ball every single time. And even these ones here, they understand, okay, good defense there against Jalen Adams. Well, let's just throw the ball in. That's not a great entry pass if everybody's going to be standing around there. Cam Oliver, we've seen you shoot a fadeaway. That's a poor decision there, just bad decisions at the wrong time. But that comes down to, hey, what offense are we really confident in scoring? What offense can we get side to side, really swift action, strong cuts, strong screens? Then with 10 seconds to go, we get a ball screen with Jalen Adams and Cam Oliver. Okay, where do we get the flex action to get Cam Oliver in the post with no help defense, let him go to work? Those are the kind of things we didn't see throughout every single game consistently enough, but it goes back to Goorjian's point of how do we get that true point guard to set that up and then maybe play Jalen Adams off the ball?
Point guard, whatever. You can bring in as many guards as you want. If everybody's just going to spread the floor and just play basically shell drill offense, it's not going to matter. And another guard just keeps them small. I think they got to, get 3 imports, absolutely, and one of them got to be a center, a tall center, not a 6'7", 6'8" skinny dude. So like, going back to the days when they won it, they had the Brazilian, Suarez. They had Jordy Hunter. They had some size. So then you can have your Tui's at the 4, your Cam Olivers at the 4, Xavier Cooks. But they were just out of position for the entire season.
Point guard, mouth guard, error guard. They need something out there that can dribble the ball outside of Jalen Adams. That's where they fell down for me. And, of course, height was a major issue with that one as well. Cam Oliver, is this... Now, I can imagine, look, I'd be surprised if the Kings run it back with him there. But are we going to see him somewhere else in the NBL? Guys that come back multiple times, usually they hang around for a while. I would love to see, because Oliver wasn't that bad throughout the year. I think he copped a bit of a whack throughout the year, but a lot of it was just due to weird rotations. The guy can hoop.
If they had a true centre, and he was playing in the power forward and then some backup minutes at the centre, he's got the talent. He's got the overall game to score in a variety of ways. He's an all-NBL calibre player. So I really hope that, I don't think it'll be in Sydney, but I hope that he lands somewhere else in the NBL because he's fun to watch. You put him in the right piece. We saw it in Cairns how good he could be. You play some minutes at the 5 or you have some other bigger pieces around to take the pressure off, having to bang bodies and always be that big anchor in defence. He's a tremendous talent, and I really hope that he's lands somewhere in the NBL because I don't want to lose him.
I agree. Like, he's a talent, no doubt about it. He's a double-double guy every single night. There's something between whatever it was that made Brian not want to play him that many minutes. There's a couple of games he would jog back on defense. He has passages of play where a coach is not going to like it. Okay. If he can just clean that little bit up, because I feel like he's a grounded guy. You hear him in his interviews post-game. Seems like he's really appreciative to be in the league and, says all the right things. I'm watching him play. He definitely plays hard with intensity. Sometimes, he can get chirpy. So what? That's fine. You can tell he's into it. But whatever it was between him and Brian, he won't be back in Sydney. I would be shocked if he was. But definitely another team could use a guy of that kind of talent.
Now, we gave the Sydney Kings the preseason championship based on the talent. You didn't. You were lack of tout. We gave them the preseason championship based on their roster, me and you, Pete. Brian Goorjian didn't really appear to agree with us in his press conference.
Tonight, when it came down, as you look up at the clock and it's 7 minutes to go and you got a 1-point lead, and they've got guys, when we defend them and we break down their stuff and they don't have anything, the ball's in Harrell's hand, he makes a play. The ball's in Kendrick's hand, he makes a play. The ball's in DJ's hand, he nails a shot. we were in a situation where we had a lot of guys playing their ass off, but when the ball got swung or moved, they don't have the ability to make a play.
Interesting comments. Now, a couple of things have upset me throughout this season, and it's the complete and utter disrespect that Brian Goorjian has gotten from basketball fans, from people everywhere. This is a mulligan. This was a tough situation to coach in. Not everything was working. You know, maybe the sub stuff was going a bit wrong. You know, you go on the back of the boomers stuff. That is a very unique environment to coach. Brian Goorjian is one of the best coaches that we have ever seen in this country. You're allowed to have an off year. What was the streak of playoff appearances? Something like 28. And all of a sudden we're saying Goorjian can't coach. The comments down there are filled with stuff saying that Brian Goorjian... Am I going crazy? You are allowed a mulligan. Because you have one bad season, it does not mean you are done. You're finished. Goorjian's got plenty of time left in him. This year was not his best. The rotations struggled to get it to work. But don't for a second tell me that Brian Goorjian cannot goddamn coach.
I'm not saying he can't coach. I'm not saying that at all. What I am going to say, though, is what my ex-fantasy girlfriend, Janet Jackson, said to me.
Oh, God, where are we going?
She said, "What have you done for me lately?" That's what she said. So, yes, we ain't going to sit up here and talk about all Brian's glory days. We're going to talk about what's going on right now. Now, look, yes, he can coach, but you know what? That press conference, I wasn't cool with it. I mean, when you say that they got playmakers, DJ can do this, and Trez can do this, and Kendrick, well, you know what? The South East Melbourne Phoenix didn't give a damn about none of that, did they? What's the difference? Your guys couldn't stop them from making plays. That's where I'm going with that one. And then to say, well, yeah, when we swing the ball around, none of my guys can make plays, then what are we playing for then? So you don't think I can make a play? I mean, we finished in the top 6. So do we just waste our time suiting up? It just felt like it was defeated. I just didn't like the sound of it. Maybe it was in the emotion. Either way, I don't care when it was. I didn't like the sound of it.
I'm still trying to get over your Janet Jackson. You had your Superman curl fall down when you were
did notice
really,
that just as I went
when you were
right
getting
down
really
the barrel.
into it, your Clark Kent curl. But I looked at, and we're not coaches. We sit here, but
I am.
I look at that gap. So you are a coach of NBL right now. All right. But I would have played Alex Tui 35 minutes in that game. The versatility, defensively, offensively, doing all of that. Certain things we're geniuses in hindsight, but they still had talent. Yes, the size is a massive issue. We addressed that all season long. It's a massive issue. But Ball Qual came across one of the best two-way players in the league. I mean, Xavier Cooks didn't play that game, but he was there all season. Jalen Adams, Cam Oliver, Isaiah Liaf had a really poor season. But the talent that they had on this team, Jalen Galloway, you go back to that. It was in Melbourne when he got hurt. He started that game. And Jalen Galloway looked really strong. And that's when I thought Sydney might be able to turn it around. But they've got a large majority of pieces coming back in terms of that main core. And now you've got some key guys to think about. Alex Tui won't be here. He'll shake Adam Silver's hand. I think you bring Jalen Adams back for sure if you can, and then go out and get some other pieces.
Plenty to work on in the off-season for the Sydney Kings, but you know what? They got the money and they got the ability. Sydney's a very beautiful place to live. I don't think they're going to have any trouble approaching someone who's hopefully over 6'8" to play for their team next year. And of course, Cook's the big question on what's going to happen. We'll be following that one closely. But the Perth Wildcats, they got the job done in front of the part-time army. Are you kidding me, Perth? You're up in arms on Twitter saying, "Where are the tickets, Mark Arena?" And you roll down with 50 of you to Challenge Stadium, HBF, what do you want to call it? It looked like it was a high school game. Yeah. What on earth is going on there? Traffic? Jesus. They must have been the same people going to Brian Goorjian. Someone take this off me before I say something I'll regret.
Yeah, no, the Red Army was disappointing.
It wasn't an army, it was a
disappointing.
small battalion.
Yeah, the small battalion. They couldn't send any shoulders down there, send any soldiers to the fight. Now, look, they missed the game, too. They missed a great game. Maybe they was in a pub somewhere. Maybe they was somewhere having a watch party. But Perth Wildcats are playing some very good all-around basketball. John Riley has got a better team than he had last year in the final. When he went to the semifinals last year and lost to Tasmania, that year, Keanu Pender was up and down. Now, Keanu Pender is John Wick. That's how he's balling. Keanu he just went absolutely ham. He's got Dylan Windler back and healthy. He's got Christian Doolittle. He's got, obviously, the MVP of the league, the young brigade, and Benny Hitchell, Elijah Pepper, David Aquera. They are better equipped this year than what they were last year.
They are. I've been high on them all season. I'm going to stay high on them. I know you're high on John Riley Island, Felix, but Keanu Pender was enormous in this game. But they have all those complementary pieces to a superstar that is Bryce Cotton, and they're clicking at the right time. But you talk about John Riley Island. I know you're on there, you're very high, but I've seen some things, in particular in this game, where I think they really have nailed it, and it's probably coming from, or it has to be coming from John Riley right here. So Keanu Pinder was balling at this point. How do we isolate him? Well, let's flash the weak side post. The weak side flashes up. Owen Foxall's guarding Bryce Cotton out down the other end, basically, and you let Keanu Pinder go to work. Right here, okay, we're going to get a lot of attention on Bryce Cotton, so let's move off the ball. Angus Glover, he's caught ball watching. Just backdoor layup right there. Everybody's moving. Everyone understands the assignment that's being played right here. And what's the key? You've got 3 guys guarding Bryce. Be aggressive that first play out on that first pass. Bryce Cotton is the most unselfish superstar we've seen in a very long time. And the rest of the team understand the assignment.
Bryce Cotton is Batman, but every good superhero, I don't watch many of these Marvel films, but I assume they all have sidekicks, don't they? Or is it just Batman that has Robin?
No, it's a few of them.
Do they all have them? Or do any of them go solo?
There's a few solos.
There's a few solos.
Okay, well, we don't understand. They're going to get done eventually. You need a sidekick. If Bryce Cotton's Batman, he needs a Robin. Now, whether that's Doolittle, whether that's Pinder, whoever it is, you just need someone else popping up.
And they got a system. It's all of them. Their defense isn't world beaters, but it's good enough in passages. It's good enough when it needs to be. So you can get offense from some of everywhere. You can't really scout them. Yes, Bryce is going to get all the attention, but now you got to be careful. What do I do in this situation? Do I leave Keanu Pinder isolated one-on-one? Do I have to send more help? And like you said, he's unselfish. They all are. They all moving the ball well, and they knocking down shots. They're going to be a tough out.
If the Perth Wildcats are Superman, then their kryptonite is their record against United. 5-15. Are we concerned for the part-time army here?
I'm concerned with your analogy. Go with the Avengers or something. There's more of them.
I had to take a turn. Charles Dickens didn't work, so I'm trying to go a bit more modern for you lower IQ.
I mean, it is interesting, isn't it? 5 wins, 15 losses, so that's going to be a tough task for them. But I do believe that they are one of the few teams that have peaked at the perfect time, playing their best basketball, and that's going to be an almighty series. That series is going 3 games.
And you know what? They're back in RAC Arena. The traffic's going to be all right. 15,000 in the building. It's going to be fantastic. We're going to a break, and I'm to look up more quotes. Superman. Well, it was a tough weekend for basketball in Queensland. They currently have no NBL coaches in the state. The Cairns Taipans no longer with Adam Ford, which I believe, and you'll elaborate later on about what that is, but I believe he made the choice to move on there. And for the Brisbane Bullets, I've said all year, should have kept Schuler. They've parted ways with Justin Schuler, and now, where do they go from here? I always say, when you get rid of a coach, and here's their statement, you better have a better one in the waiting. You don't want to go out there and start this long search. I certainly don't think Schuler did a bad enough job with injuries and whatnot to determine the sacking. But, it's up to everyone's opinion.
I would have liked to have seen Justin Schuler get another gig, at least one more year. He was there for 2 years. He cleaned house a little bit, brought in his own people with him, and they were playing well. I mean, they only missed out on the top 6 by a game, and they had the worst injury run of all time. So just based on that, I'd have gave him at least one more year to see. But like now, ownership, management, everybody wants to win yesterday. You don't want to take time to build something that's sustainable. So hopefully, Brisbane's going to come out with a big splash and bring in a big fish.
And the Bullets, Malcolm Watts, everyone there has done a fantastic job at building this program up. They used to be the laughing stock only a few years ago. They have totally cleaned this thing up, and I just feel, and maybe it's personal opinion, that they were heading in a real nice direction with this group, with Justin Schuler. Now, there's a lot that goes on behind the scenes that we don't know. We're not in there at every practice session. We're not in there in the day-to-day. Maybe there was something there, but it just seems like a bit of a knee-jerk reaction to just missing out on the finals when you got a lot of guys coming back. This is where you start to build, and I am big on retention, not just for players, but coaching staff as well.
Well, that's a key point in all success as well, but I look at it from 2 years ago when Schuler took over. Is the club as a whole, not just on court, but as a whole, are they in a better position today than they were 2 years ago? I think we'd all say yes. Yep. Now you bring in a new coach, and again, depending who they get, we'll decide whether they're right or wrong in this, but you reset a lot of that building, a lot of that foundation. He changed the culture. They were trying to go in the right direction, and now you've got to kind of go back to square one and understand, okay, we're building up again. How many times can you keep building? I probably would have given it another year for sure and trying to figure out what's going on, but clearly there's going to be something in the works, and if they go out and land a big fish, well, then it's a completely different option, because there are some big fishes out there. I don't know if they're all catchable, but there are some big fishes out there.
Do you think they blamed Justin Schuler on the injuries that he had? Are you hearing anything about overtraining, anything like that?
I'm not hearing anything, but again, we know that they had the review, or they're still doing the review. So, okay, if this is the first domino to fall, what are the other dominoes out of this review? Because right now, as you see, you've got the public statement that says we have a review going on about the way our season ended with injuries and everything, and the next thing we're parting ways with our coach. If nothing else eventuates, well, people understand, okay, you've got one thing here, the other thing here. So you're basically putting all the blame on Justin Schuler, which we all would think would be very unfair. I think there's going to have to be more to come out of the review. Otherwise, it's just scapegoating.
Well, it's been a whirlwind sort of roundabout for the Brisbane Bullets coaching staff. We have a look at their last 5 coaches that they've been through here. There has been a lot going on. You look at that. A different guy every single year. James Duncan, the only guy to back up then, and Justin Schuler comes in. That is not good. And of course, that forgets about the interim coaches that came through as well, which we've left off that one. But I'll tell you what I think NBL 26 should potentially have written next to it. Sam McKinnon. The return of Sam McKinnon.
Oh, there's going to be plenty of job openings the way it looks, right? But again, I talked about big fish. There's names out there. Can you get Trevor Gleeson back? Everyone keeps bringing up Chase Buford. Best success rate of winning championships here in the NBL. Came in for 2 years, won 2 championships. Can you go and get Mody Mayo?
And it's only going to be a 2-year stint, whoever they get. If history says something.
Can you go and get some of these big fishes to come back and lead the team? And I keep talking about it. No one spoke about Paula Hinari for a while. I know they're all in the same part of the world doing a very good job of coaching. What would it take to bring them back? You always pick up the phone and try and make a splash that way. I'd like to see them go out. They have to land a big fish.
Now, the Cairns Taipans, of course, parting ways with Adam Ford, but I believe that was a more mutual call, or maybe even entirely on the side of Adam Ford as he seeks opportunities overseas. Now, Adam Ford, as someone who works in the media, has been fantastic with us throughout his entire tenure in the NBL. Just a really, really high character guy throughout this whole thing. And the stuff that they've got to deal with at Cairns, when you talk about head coaches for the Cairns Taipans, it is a whole different ball game based on the model that they run with out there. The money isn't there. There's a lot of facility stuff that happens over there. It's a different ball game, and you get judged accordingly.
Yeah, obviously the results haven't gone Forty's way, but he's unearthed so much young, good talent. But then, like we say, what happens? The big teams start calling in with more money. Guys start leaving the tropical north. So Forty is basically coaching with one hand behind his back, not having the same budget as all the other teams. There's only so much a guy can do. And I feel like he's a good coach. And like you said, it was a mutual thing probably. I'm sure they would love to have him back. But Forty's thinking, look, how long is this coaching career going to be? I at least want to be on an even playing ground.
Yeah, mutual opportunity. I think this whole year, everybody kind of understood this was his last year of contract. And you just get to a situation in life where I want a different challenge. I've done this. How far can I get here? I want to go and explore somewhere else. So all the best to him. I think he's a tremendous coach, tremendous human being, and he'll be missed in the league. Will he come back to the league someday? Potentially. I'd like to see him back. But you're right. It's a unique opportunity going to Cairns, which means that job opening is going to be very different who they go and attack compared to the Brisbane Bullets. They're 2 very different clubs. And good luck. I'd like to see Kerry Williams get a chance. His name's been floated around. He understands all the challenges that come with being a Cairns Taipan and doing all of that, the budget, everything else. But we'll see what happens at the final.
The biggest losers of Adam Ford leaving are going to be Melbourne, Perth and Sydney, because now they actually have to go overseas to find their imports instead of just looking up far north and saying, we'll take him, we'll take him. It was a supermarket for the big teams for a while there, but Adam Ford, a fantastic job. And as you say, unearthing talent more than anything else. We're off to a break. Plenty more up next. Welcome back to NBL Overtime. The semi-finals right around the corner after the pesky fever break rids itself after a week off. And the best thing about basketball, you get a series. Now, they do it in baseball as well, but the best team usually wins. We have a look at the final series right now. The seeding qualifier, boring. Playing a qualifier, boring. They're done. It's time to get into the semi-finals, Pete.
Yeah, looking forward to, as we said off the top, the best 4 teams in the competition going at it. Some unique matchups as well, and there can only be one winner.
Do you think that the Hawks have been sitting over there on the beach? Sam Frolin's got the Jeep with the top down. And the Phoenix, they've been in the furnace. A comeback win, a tough loss. They've been hardened and sharpened, and they're going to be coming up against your Illawarra Hawks, who are probably going to have a couple of T-shirt tans by the time this game rolls around.
No, I don't think that about Sam Frolin and the Hawks, not at all. I feel like the Hawks are sitting there waiting. Now, the South East Melbourne Phoenix have had some success this season against the Hawks, beat them twice. But that means nothing, absolutely nothing when the semifinals start. So Hawks got the home court advantage, and they are hungry. They remember they was in the same spot last season against a different team from Melbourne, and that series went to 3 with 2 overtime games. Very tough loss the Hawks suffered, and Melbourne United was worthy winners. Hawks are back again. They've retooled. It's going to be tough to knock them off.
As I always talk about, it's going to be now up to the supporting cast to get them through. And I think the Hawks have the best supporting cast. But just looking at a couple of those stats, and just I wonder, the only worry I have with the Hawks about going forward from here is they're not the hunter anymore. They're the hunted. How do they deal with that, being the best team all year, where the pressure's now on them? You've got home court advantage. Everybody, really, if your team's not in it, you want to see the Hawks win a championship. That's just true. Everybody loves what the Illawarra Hawks have been doing under Justin Tatum, the way they play. But right now, all the pressure is on them, where the Phoenix, and Josh King said it in a press conference, they're battle-tested. They've been through everything. They've been through 3 different coaches this season. They started on 5. They were down 20. Absolutely everything. Are they in a better spot mentally than the Hawks? We'll find out. But, geez, that's going to be a whole lot of fun. Hey, that's my opinion. I'm just saying.
You're entitled to it.
I still think the Hawks are going to win. Man. I still think the Hawks are going to win. They're the best team in the league. But that little seed of potentially being the hunted for once, sometimes it's hard to get past.
We're looking for a negative, glass half empty. Actually, on that one, the best thing about this is no matter who wins, whether it's the Phoenix or the Illawarra Hawks, and maybe I'm looking through the media lens on this, but it's a great story either way. You know, what the Phoenix have been through with Josh King coming in, the little brother to Melbourne United just going bang, bang, knocking them out the throwdown, and then coming and winning a championship. And, of course, the Hawks, which would be the best story of all, coming out and winning the championship after so long would be fantastic. We can't lose either way as a fan.
Now, basketball is going to be the real winner.
Oh, out of all the quotes we've had today, by far the worst, the one that needs to be moved.
Take that out. Forget I said that.
Melbourne versus Perth as well. The Blue Bloods going at it in this one. This is going to be a fantastic series. I think there's a little bit of beef between these teams, personally.
Absolutely there is. I mean, 2 of the most successful franchises we've seen in recent times have had some heated battles. You go back to 2019, when Perth, Game 4 in Melbourne, cutting down the nets, and the season sweep. Now, sweeping a team is very hard to do in the regular season, but to carry that over is also very hard. So if I'm a Red Army fan and I see that we haven't beat Melbourne all season, I'm not worried about that. It is a different ball game in the postseason, and it's very hard. So they'd have to win 5-0 in a season. Not many teams do that.
You know, John really said it before. No one beats the Perth Wildcats 5 times in a row.
Is that what he said?
No, it's a famous tennis quote, but I believe it was 13 points. But anyway, do not give me that look again after I give you a quote. Do you think the Perth have got a chance in this one?
They got a massive chance. I feel like Melbourne United, how's Jack White? We need to know. I think this whole series, from Melbourne United's point of view, I know what I'm going to get from their backcourt, from Shea, Delly, and Clark. I know what I'm going to get from those guys. Marcus Lee and Rob Lowe, they're going to pitch in and do their little thing. I'm looking at you, Jack White. Can you step up now and be that guy who showed up in Perth when he went down there and he opened up a can? They need that Jack White, because we don't want to necessarily see Kyle Bowen having all that on his shoulders. Kyle Bowen's going to come on and give you some quality bag-up minutes, but it's all about Jack White.
I don't think Melbourne can win if Jack White's not at his very best, and healthy, obviously, he's got to be. But he is their key X factor in this, because I think he can really get to his spots. He can really dominate on the glass and do a whole lot of things, but it's going to be a fun matchup. And as I said, United, they're running into a red-hot Perth team.
And Chris Golding, he loves to light it up against Perth. I just love this. Bryce Cotton down one end, Chris Golding down the other. I think there's storylines all throughout these semi-final series that are going to be fantastic. But for more about storylines, trend is your friend. How long is the down for? Have they added?
Oh, it's a delay.
Oh, delayed bounce. They're messing with that thing, I guarantee you. But the trend is your friend. Let's have a look at the last championship winners from this, and let's see if anything jumps out to you over the last 10 times. Okay, second, third, first. There's something missing from all these numbers, Pete. Do you mind pointing it out for me?
There's a lot of numbers missing, but only in the top 3 are champions.
Fourth. Who sits fourth? South East Melbourne. They would have to be the first team to ever win the championship from being 0-5 to start the year, which is, it's probably expected if you start the year 0-5, and to come from fourth over the last 10 seasons.
See, the trend don't go back far enough. The trend needs to go back to 2000,
No, because that would have been an extra 2 hours of work for me to try to find.
That's all right, because the team came from fourth to win the whole damn thing.
When was that?
2001.
Oh, that's all.
I'm just saying. We got to extend the trend.
So maybe do we change it to extend the trend instead of trend?
Include the 2000 and 2001 Hawk season. Fourth place.
Top 5 pressure rankings coming up next.
What are you really gambling with? For free and confidential support, call the number on the screen or visit the website.
Welcome back to NBL Overtime, and it's time to see who's under pressure. Now, the teams in the final, not a huge amount of pressure, maybe some on-court pressure, but it's the off-court pressure that we're talking about now. 6 teams are missing out. 5 of them have made it into the pressure rankings in this one. Let's start off. 5, Tasmania. Now, I give them a mulligan for this year because Jack White, well, he left early. They had to get in some imports in late. Didn't quite work. They've got a whole off season to prepare now. So there is no mulligan. And you know I meant Jack McVeigh.
Because I don't listen to a lot you say, but I was like, did he just say Jack White? I think they're under pressure. They need to nail that power forward spot. That's the biggest pressure of them all. You worry about Milton Doyle, Jordan Crawford after that. Get an impact four-man. They're proven to be successful in this league.
Everything he said. Move on.
Nice. Ditto, I believe we took on that one. New Zealand. Now, bringing in Taco Fall. They've got to find a way to work with him. It didn't quite work at the halfway point. Is it going to work for a full year if they get the personnel around him?
No. This is, I feel like, is the most pressure because they blew up a team that was already going places. They was in top 4 when they blew that up. So for mine, New Zealand Breakers, they got to really secure the pieces, and I don't feel like Taco is one of them. No disrespect.
You want to add anything, Pete?
Take out the last bit, but what he said.
We're going to play this game, are we? Sydney, if you're throwing all that money, now, of course, they weren't the highest spending team this year, but they've got the money and the facilities and the resources to get the best talent. They just got to find a way to get it to work.
It's going to be interesting to see what happens. A lot of dominoes to fall. We wait to see what happens with the Xavier Cook situation as well. But then they're always going to be around the mark. They're always going to retool, but some big decisions to be made on some big pieces.
On imports, that's their thing.
The Adelaide 36ers at number 2. 1, because now they've got to back up the entertainment factor of what they did this previous season into next year. But also, getting good talent in there, you've got to win games.
They've already get 9,000 people to the game. It don't matter. They just got to get a good team. You don't need to go and get some type of weird kind of act just to try to hype up the masses. Those people are showing up anyway.
And you've got to keep some of this talent. Obviously, they've got DJ Isaac, Kendrick or Montrez. One of them has to come back, surely.
Final one, under the most pressure, the Brisbane Bullets. May be unfair, but because their trajectory has been so far upwards, and if you make the big call of firing your coach, you've got to back it up with something.
I was just trying to say, get to the closure as quickly as you can.
I've had this thing sitting in my throat for the entire show, and we had 10 seconds left, and I ruined it. Fantastic, guys. Fever break, semi-finals after that.